Hey, how you doing? It's Clayton here from howtodrawcomics.net and welcome to today's tutorial. In this video, I'm going to take you through my process for designing a hideously gorgeous demon portrait and how I like to go about using the underlying skull structure of the demon in order to come up with an extra horrifying design. I'll also take you through some of the rendering techniques I like to use when it comes to depicting various materials and textures, and of course my general approach to design when it comes to creating disgusting looking demon fiend. So I hope you enjoy the video, sit back and I'll catch you in a bit. Alright, so we're back with another demon portrait demo, and in today's video I'm going to be drawing up a very nasty looking creaturely demon, a very stark contrast to the beautiful looking demon temptress that we drew up in last week's video. And for this one, I'm going to get to go into some of the nitty gritty details in order to make this guy as nasty looking as possible. This is my real aim here, is to try to incorporate and depict as many creepy elements into one face as possible. And what you'll notice is as I illustrate this guy and I lay in the details, I'm going to be making a real point to accentuate all the skull-like structure underlying his actual face there. And I'm going to be describing the giant cheekbones, the sunken in eyeballs, and giving him those sharp teeth, that decayed off looking nose, and of course giving him some horns to boot, again to really mix in all the ingredients that make a disgusting looking demon the nasty looking creature that he is. And this is a classically looking hideous demon that is, you know, the last demon that we drew up, she was a beautiful looking seductive demon who was there to pull you in with her allure. But this guy's job is really to scare the crap out of you. And that's exactly why I'm going to be basically just putting in detail left, right, and center to describe some of the disgusting looking attributes. And mainly those attributes are going to be his decaying flesh that is going to be stretched over that skull-like structure, and the materials that are going to be found throughout his head. So he's going to have a lot of kind of hard-looking bone-like materials that are kind of textured with, you know, a sense of kind of, you know, some scales maybe, some very hard bone-like, stone-like material that his head is going to be made of. And I want to really make it look as though as if you were to reach out and touch this guy's face, that it would feel hard, that it would feel very bumpy, and very much like actually touching some kind of rough bone type material. And you can see here that what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and blend those horns and that bone-like structure that makes up the top portion of his head down onto the face, which really is probably going to be the fleshiest part of the portrait itself. And even then, there's not a whole lot of flesh going on. A lot of the flesh around his face is pretty much kind of falling off or very, very decayed looking. And that's again to up the creep factor and to really get the viewer kind of squirming in their seats when they look at this guy. You can see there on the chin that I'm adding in some nice bone-like structure. It looks very, very sharp, very thorny looking. I want it to look dangerous. I want this guy to look as hardcore as the first demon minion that we did up, so spikes galore. And I really do want to make it look as though he's, you know, look, he's going to look a little bit over-exaggerated. I'm not quite sure exactly whether or not his actual design is going to be practical to a large extent. You know, if he was to kind of open his mouth too wide there, his chin would probably stab him in the throat or something. But, you know, we're talking comics here, and we're not really necessarily, you know, I don't know, maybe this guy will be in a live-action movie someday, and maybe then his design may have to work in a real-world type context. But in comics, you know, these guys can be as exaggerated and as wacky looking as you want them to be. And that's why, especially when it comes to demons, I like to go all out. Because, hey, you know what? Maybe you will build up some of the design around a brief kind of vague idea of the underlying anatomy, and you'll keep that in mind. But for the most part, you can kind of make it up as it goes. And you can build the anatomy in almost any way that you want. You know, again, I'm just kind of making up these horns. You can see me kind of building them up there, and I'm not even sure if I really used any references for this one. I think I just kind of made it up on the fly and went with what worked. And that's the brilliant part about these designs, is that you can just kind of lay something down onto the page and build off of that and turn it into something that looks cool. It doesn't even have to look cool in the beginning. And that's, again, it goes back to what I was saying in the previous videos about how you may not even have a solid idea, a solid vivid idea as to where your designs are going to go in the beginning. But the beauty of that is that you kind of get to watch them build up and you get to watch them grow as you draw. And that's got to be one of the most creative experiences that you can have as a comic book artist. I mean, when you can actually, that's one of the best parts, the best kind of points at which you're bringing a comic book together is the character design part, or the design phase, where you kind of, nothing's been established yet, and the sky is the limit, and you can make anything up. And that's when I find that I'm at my most creative, because then I can just kind of sit back and have fun and let my creative juices out onto the page and kind of get back in touch with that kind of feeling that set me out down on this path as a comic book artist in the first place. A lot of the time when it comes to drawing comics, you're likely going to be drawing the exact same comic book character over and over again. And although that does have some creative elements to that, it's never as going to be as creative as actually creating a brand new character and to build an illustration and to bring it about from nowhere. This is why I found this particular series of drawings very fun to do, and why I will occasionally kind of just relax a little bit, not put any expectations on myself, rip open my sketchbook and start to draw something down that just looks cool for no other reason other than the fact it looks cool. So you can see me building up this kind of scaly, textured-looking hard material for this cone-like shape on his head. It looks like some kind of nut almost. and you can see me adding in some crosshatches there and some little like texture details just to really make it look rough and kind of grungy looking and sharp. And of course, again, if you were to run your finger over this particular part of his head, it'd feel rough. And I really do want the viewer to feel that as they're looking at this portrait. So you can see me going down now to add in some design elements for his earring and placing those in. Again, not really basing it off of anything, just kind of pulling it out of my imagination. And you know what? I find the less I think about it when it comes to this kind of design work, the better the result is going to be. So I just kind of lay something down, some shape, some kind of stroke, some detail, and I place it on there and I hope for the best, and usually it's going to be alright, as long as I'm not putting too much pressure on myself to make it perfect. That's when I mess up, and probably when you're going to mess up as well. So sometimes it pays to relax and to chill out a little bit and to just see where it goes. Lay something down and go with it. Now you can see me dropping in some shadows underneath the head there and beginning to render out some of the muscles that make up the structure of this demon's neck. I'm wanting to look really buff. His head may not look like it's got a whole lot of muscle attached to it, but I do want his body to look buff. Again, this guy's kind of like, he's the badass class of demon. He's probably even more dangerous than the minion that we originally created. And I'm adding in some crosshatches just to describe that anatomy and to bring out those forms a little bit. Whenever I'm rendering, I'm always trying to keep in mind the actual forms that I'm trying to render. And as long as you're rendering within the context of the forms that you're working with, usually you'll get it pretty accurate. And what that means is that you want to think about the thickness of the muscle. You want to think about the individual forms of those muscles themselves so that you can gauge how much rendering actually needs to be placed in there. And with that, I'm pretty much done. You can see that this guy has a lot of heavy detail that's been added in there, a lot of crosshatches, a lot of rendering that's been used to define the most intricate forms on this guy. And really, the end result is this: a hideous looking, disgusting, handsome demon. Or he's probably handsome in his world, but in our world, he's definitely something to behold, that's for sure. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Next week, we'll jump onto the last illustration in this series, where we'll be drawing a guy who's kind of down on his luck, kind of, thinking about leaping over the darkest demonic side, very susceptible to demonic possession. And I'm going to be drawing in a few kind of demonic demonic, alluring demonesses who are going to be kind of tempting him over onto the dark side. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you next week. Until then, keep on creating. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and if you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, leave your thoughts in the comment section below this video, and remember to subscribe to this channel for more comic art tips, tricks, and tutorials. And of course, if you'd like to be kept in the loop on up-and-coming articles, tips, and tricks, be sure to head on over to howtodrawcomics.net and subscribe. Now, I'd also like to mention while we're here that I've just set up a brand new comic artist community at howtodrawcomics.net where you can sign up for free and start to participate, showcasing your work, leaving feedback on other artists' work, and basically just mingling with a bunch of like-minded individuals where we can all help one another learn and grow as comic book artists. So I hope to see you over there, and until next time, I'll catch you later.